The wind howled its mournful song across the desolate plains of the Arizona Territory, a symphony of dust and despair. It was 1888, a time when justice was often carved from lead and vengeance was a dish best served cold, especially when prepared by a woman scorned. This is the story of Elara Vance, a woman who, through sheer force of will and an unwavering vow, brought down not one, not two, but three notorious outlaw clans that had terrorized the frontier for years. Her tale is one of unimaginable loss, calculated retribution, and a surprising turn that reshaped the very landscape of the Old West. Before we delve into Elara's incredible journey, make sure to subscribe to the West Saga for more epic tales of courage and unexpected twists from the unforgiving frontier. Our story begins in the burgeoning settlement of Redemption Gulch, a place whose name belied the harsh realities of its existence. Elara Vance, a woman of striking beauty and quiet strength, lived there with her husband Thomas, a prospector whose dreams of striking it rich were as vast as the desert itself. They had built a simple life, filled with hard work, shared laughter, and the promise of a future together. Thomas was a kind man, known for his integrity and his steady hand with a pickaxe. Elara, a former schoolteacher from the East, had adapted remarkably to the rugged frontier, finding solace in the vast emptiness and the fierce love she shared with her husband. Their small cabin, nestled at the edge of town, was a beacon of warmth and domesticity in a land often defined by its brutality. The first shadow to fall upon Redemption Gulch came in the form of the Red Hand Gang, led by a ruthless man named Silas the Butcher Blackwood. Blackwood was a name whispered in fear from Santa Fe to Sacramento, a man whose reputation for wanton violence preceded him like a dust storm. His gang, a motley crew of hardened criminals, specialized in raiding isolated settlements and prospector camps, leaving behind a trail of destruction and despair. Their modus operandi was simple: strike fast, take everything of value, and eliminate any witnesses. They were a plague upon the territory, and the local law enforcement, often spread thin and outgunned, struggled to contain their reign of terror. One fateful autumn morning, Thomas, with a hopeful glint in his eye, set out for a newly discovered vein of silver ore, promising Elara he'd be back by sundown. He never returned. Days later, a lone rider stumbled into Redemption Gulch, bearing grim news. Thomas's camp had been ambushed. The Red Hand Gang had struck, leaving behind a scene of utter devastation. Thomas, along with several other prospectors, had been brutally murdered, their bodies left for the vultures. The silver they had unearthed, along with all their supplies, was gone. The news shattered Elara. The world, once vibrant and full of promise, instantly turned to ashes. The quiet strength she possessed was replaced by a hollow ache, a profound grief that threatened to consume her entirely. But beneath the surface of her sorrow, a different emotion began to simmer: cold, unwavering fury. The local sheriff, a well-meaning but ultimately ineffective man named Jedediah Stone, offered his condolences, promising to look into it. Elara knew with a chilling certainty that looking into it meant little more than a perfunctory ride-out and a shrug of resignation. Justice, she realized, would not come from the law. It would have to come from her. This moment marked the birth of the Black Widow. Elara Vance, the schoolteacher's wife, died that day, replaced by a woman consumed by a singular purpose: vengeance. She began her transformation quietly, methodically. First, she sold off Thomas's remaining tools and their meager possessions, keeping only what was essential. She purchased a sturdy, dark riding habit, practical and unassuming, and a pair of well-worn leather boots. More importantly, she acquired a Colt Peacemaker, a weighty, formidable weapon, and a box of ammunition. She spent countless hours in secret, practicing her aim at discarded cans and bottles behind her cabin, her movements precise, her face grim. She learned to load, clean, and fire the pistol with a chilling proficiency. She also studied maps, listened intently to conversations in the saloon, and pieced together fragments of information about the Red Hand Gang. She learned their routes, their habits, their hideouts. She transformed her grief into a weapon, sharpening her mind and her body for the arduous task ahead. Her initial target was Silas Blackwood himself. Elara knew that to truly dismantle the Red Hand gang, she needed to cut off its head. She tracked them for weeks, a lone shadow moving silently through the harsh landscape. She learned to survive on meager rations, to sleep under the stars, and to blend seamlessly into the wilderness. She was no longer just seeking vengeance. She was learning the art of the hunt. Her patience was infinite, her resolve unyielding. Finally, her opportunity arose. She overheard whispers in a remote trading post about Blackwood and his men planning a raid on a cattle drive passing through Dead Man's Pass. Elara rode hard, arriving at the pass well in advance. She found a vantage point high above the trail, concealed by rocks and scrub brush. She waited, the Colt cold and heavy in her hand, her heart a drumbeat in her chest. As the Red Hand gang rode into the pass, their crude laughter echoing off the canyon walls, Elara took a deep breath. She didn't hesitate. Her first shot, precise and deadly, struck Blackwood's lead horse, sending the animal tumbling and throwing him to the ground. Chaos erupted. The gang, disoriented and surprised by the sudden ambush, scattered. Elara, moving with a speed born of desperation and practice, fired again and again, targeting their horses, creating further disarray. She wasn't trying to kill them all. She was disrupting their attack, creating an opportunity. In the ensuing confusion, the cattle drovers, alerted by the gunfire, engaged the disoriented outlaws. Elara, unseen, slipped away, leaving the drovers to finish the job. Blackwood, injured and infuriated, managed to escape with a few of his men, but the raid was thwarted, and his reputation took a significant hit. Elara had not killed him, but she had sent a clear message. The Red Hand gang was no longer untouchable. This was her first small victory, a taste of the justice she craved. The news of the thwarted raid, attributed to an unknown lone rider, spread like wildfire. The Red Hand gang, once so feared, now faced internal strife and a growing sense of paranoia. Elara, still a phantom, continued to stalk them, picking off their members one by one, targeting their supply lines, sabotaging their horses. She never revealed herself, always striking from the shadows, leaving behind only the chilling calling card of her vengeance. It was during this period that the legend of the Black Widow began to take shape, a silent, deadly force that hunted outlaws. The remaining members of the Red Hand gang, their numbers dwindling, their morale shattered, eventually dispersed. Some captured, some killed by other forces, and others simply vanishing into the unforgiving landscape. Silas Blackwood himself, wounded and broken, was eventually cornered by a posse in a dingy saloon in Texas and met his end in a hail of gunfire, largely due to the relentless pressure Elara had applied. The first clan was dismantled, but Elara's journey was far from over. Her investigation had revealed a disturbing truth. The Red Hand gang was not an isolated entity. They had operated in loose alliance with two other formidable outlaw clans, often sharing information, resources, and even members for larger heists. These were the Viper's Nest, known for their cunning and their mastery of ambush tactics, and the Iron Horsemen, a brutal gang specializing in train robberies. Elara realized that to truly honor Thomas's memory and to prevent future tragedies, she had to eradicate the entire network. Her vow deepened, solidifying into an unshakable resolve. The Viper's Nest was her next target. Led by a venomous woman named Diamond Lil Dubois, a former saloon owner turned criminal mastermind, this gang was far more elusive than Blackwood's brutes. Lil was known for her intelligence and her ability to manipulate others. Her gang operated with a sophisticated network of informants and safe houses, making them incredibly difficult to track. Elara knew that a direct confrontation would be suicide. She needed to outwit them, to turn their own strengths against them. Elara spent months infiltrating their network, not with a gun, but with her mind. She disguised herself as a weary traveler, a desperate widow seeking work, a seamstress. She moved from town to town, listening, observing, Piecing together fragments of information, she learned their codes, their meeting places, their vulnerabilities. She discovered that Diamond Lil had a weakness, an insatiable greed for precious jewels, and a deep-seated distrust of her own lieutenants, constantly fearing betrayal. Elara devised a plan. She fabricated a rumor, carefully planting seeds of a lost Spanish treasure hidden in a remote, abandoned mine, a treasure known only to a select few and conveniently now known to her. She ensured the rumor reached the ears of one of Lil's most trusted yet ambitious lieutenants, a man named Jasper the Rattlesnake Cole. She then subtly manipulated Cole, playing on his ambition and his desire to usurp Lil. She fed him false information, leading him to believe that Lil was planning to cut him out of a major score, and that this Spanish treasure was his chance to strike out on his own. The plan worked perfectly. Cole, blinded by greed and suspicion, gathered a small contingent of the Viper's Nest and rode out to the treasure mine, unaware that Elara had already rigged the entrance with a series of strategically placed explosives. As they entered the mine, Elara, watching from a distance, detonated the charges. The entrance collapsed, trapping Cole and his men inside. She didn't kill them directly, but she ensured their capture by alerting a nearby unsuspecting sheriff's posse to suspicious activity at the mine. The posse, arriving to investigate, found the trapped outlaws and easily apprehended them as they tried to dig their way out. Diamond Lil, enraged by Cole's perceived betrayal and the loss of her men, grew increasingly paranoid. Elara continued to sow discord within the Viper's Nest, sending anonymous letters to other lieutenants, accusing Lil of hoarding profits and planning their downfall. The gang, once a cohesive unit, began to unravel from within. Lil, unable to trust anyone, became isolated, her once sharp mind clouded by suspicion. Elara finally confronted Lil in a deserted saloon in a ghost town, a place fitting for their final showdown. Lil, surrounded by only a handful of her most loyal but increasingly fearful men, had become a shadow of her former self. Elara, still in her unassuming dark habit, walked in, her Colt holstered, her eyes burning with a cold fire. She didn't say a word. She simply laid out a series of documents she had meticulously gathered: ledgers, intercepted messages, and confessions from captured gang members, all detailing Lil's betrayals and manipulations. The evidence was irrefutable. Lil's remaining men, seeing the truth laid bare and fearing their own fates, turned on her. Diamond Lil, stripped of her power and her allies, was taken into custody by the very lawman Elara had anonymously tipped off. The Viper's Nest, dismantled by internal strife, and Elara's cunning ceased to exist. The second clan had fallen, but the most formidable challenge still lay ahead: the Iron Horsemen. This gang, led by the brutal and charismatic Elias Ironclad Thorn, was a force to be reckoned with. They were a tight-knit unit, fiercely loyal to Thorn and known for their military precision in executing train robberies. They were heavily armed, expertly mounted, and left no witnesses. Thorn himself was a legend, a man who had survived countless shootouts and prison breaks, seemingly invulnerable. Elara knew that against such a foe, cunning and subterfuge alone might not be enough. She would need to strike at their core to exploit their very strength. Elara spent months studying their methods, their routes, their preferred targets. She discovered that the Iron Horsemen had an almost ritualistic approach to their robberies. They always targeted the same stretch of track, a remote canyon known as Devil's Spine, where the train had to slow significantly to navigate a treacherous curve. They always struck at night, under the cover of darkness, and they always had a lookout posted on a specific rock formation overlooking the canyon. Elara realized that their predictability was their greatest weakness. She also learned about Thorn's personal vendetta against the Union Pacific Railroad, stemming from a past grievance that had cost him his family's land. This fueled his ruthlessness and made him particularly focused on their payroll trains. Her plan for the Iron Horsemen was her most audacious yet, requiring not just cunning, but meticulous planning and a degree of cooperation. She couldn't do this alone. She needed help, but she couldn't reveal her true identity or her full intentions. She anonymously sent detailed plans of a scheduled Union Pacific payroll shipment, including the exact route and a fabricated weak point in the train's security, to Thorne. She made it appear as if the information came from a disgruntled Union Pacific employee, feeding Thorne's distrust of the railroad. Simultaneously, Elara approached a small, independent group of bounty hunters led by a grizzled veteran named Grizzly Adams, who had a long-standing personal score to settle with Thorne. She fed Adams carefully curated intelligence about Thorne's movements and his gang's habits, painting a picture of an inevitable confrontation. She told Adams that a large payroll was indeed scheduled, but that Thorne was planning a diversionary attack on a different train, leading Adams to believe he could intercept Thorne's main force at a specific location away from the actual payroll train. She used her knowledge of Thorne's methods to make this story believable, knowing Thorne often used feints. What Elara did not reveal to Adams was that the diversionary attack she described was, in fact, the actual payroll train Thorne intended to hit at Devil's Spine, and that Thorne would be there in full force, expecting to find the train lightly guarded. She had, in essence, orchestrated a head-on collision between Thorne's entire gang and Adams's bounty hunters. Elara herself, positioned at her usual vantage point high above Devil's Spine, observed the unfolding drama. As the payroll train slowly chugged into the canyon, Thorne and his Iron Horsemen, confident in their intelligence, launched their attack. But instead of a few bewildered guards, they were met by the surprise ambush of Grizzly Adams and his well-prepared bounty hunters, who had been waiting in concealment. The canyon erupted in a cacophony of gunfire, shouts, and the thundering hooves of horses. It was a brutal, no-quarter battle. The Iron Horsemen, caught off guard and facing a determined foe, fought fiercely, but the element of surprise was lost. Thorne, a formidable fighter, was finally cornered by Adams in a desperate shootout. Elara, watching from above, saw the two men clash, their long-standing feud culminating in a violent final confrontation. Adams, fueled by years of resentment, finally brought Thorne down. The Iron Horsemen, leaderless and decimated, were either killed, captured, or scattered into the wind. The third clan, the most dangerous of all, was broken. The aftermath in Redemption Gulch and across the territory was profound. The Red Hand Gang, the Viper's Nest, and the Iron Horsemen, three scourges of the frontier, were no more. The landscape of the Old West, once dominated by their terror, began to breathe a sigh of relief. The legend of the Black Widow grew, whispered in hushed tones around campfires and in saloons. Some believed she was a ghost, a vengeful spirit of the frontier. Others thought she was a reclusive bounty hunter, a master of strategy and firearms. No one truly knew her identity, and Elara, content with her anonymity, ensured it remained that way. Elara Vance, the woman who had lost everything, had found her purpose in a quest for justice. But her journey also brought an unexpected twist, a profound realization that would redefine her future. During her meticulous tracking of the Iron Horsemen, she had come to understand the interconnectedness of the outlaw world, but also the underlying desperation that often drove men to such lives. She had witnessed the brutal cycle of violence, the endless pursuit of vengeance that only begot more death. As she watched the final battle unfold in Devil's Spine, a profound weariness settled over her. The satisfaction of vengeance, while present, was tinged with a deep sadness. She had avenged Thomas, but the cost had been immense, and the cycle of violence seemed unending. She had become a master of destruction. But what about creation? What about building anew? It was during this period of introspection that Elara encountered a small, displaced band of Apache people, their village ravaged by a recent raid, their future uncertain. They were not outlaws, but victims, caught in the crossfire of a rapidly changing frontier. Elara, witnessing their plight, felt a stirring within her, a connection to their suffering that transcended her own personal vendetta. She saw in their eyes the same loss, the same fear that had once consumed her. She approached them cautiously, not as the Black Widow, but as Elara Vance, a woman offering help. She used the skills she had honed in tracking and survival, not for vengeance, but for protection. She guided them to safer lands, away from the encroaching settlements and the constant threat of violence. She shared her knowledge of the land, her understanding of the dangers, and her unwavering resolve. This act of compassion, this unexpected turn, marked a profound shift in Elara's life. She realized that true redemption wasn't just about ending cycles of violence, but about building something new, about protecting the innocent, about fostering peace. She found a new purpose, not as an avenger, but as a guardian. The skills that had made her a formidable force against outlaws now made her a powerful protector. Elara Vance never returned to Redemption Gulch. The Black Widow, the mysterious avenger, faded into legend, her work complete. Instead, she chose a different path, one of quiet service and unwavering protection. She became a bridge between worlds, a silent guardian for those who had no voice, a living testament to the idea that even in the darkest corners of the Old West, redemption could be found. Not just in vengeance, but in the surprising act of selfless compassion. She used her deep understanding of the frontier, her strategic mind, and her formidable skills to help those in need, becoming a revered figure among the displaced and the vulnerable. Her story, a testament to resilience and the unexpected paths to redemption, reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable loss, the human spirit can find a way to not only survive, but to thrive and to build a better future from the ashes of the past. Her legacy wasn't just about the clans she destroyed, but about the lives she quietly saved, the peace she fostered, and the unexpected twist that transformed a widow's vow of vengeance into a life dedicated to safeguarding the innocent. Her journey proves that the most powerful force in the West wasn't always a gun, but a heart capable of both fierce retribution and profound compassion. If you found Elara's incredible journey of vengeance and unexpected redemption as captivating as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with fellow fans of epic Western tales. Your support helps us bring more stories of the Old West to life, stories where courage meets destiny and the unexpected always awaits. Beyond the dusty trails and sun-baked plains, Elara Vance's legend subtly intertwined with the burgeoning settlements that dotted the frontier. She didn't wear a badge, nor did she seek public recognition. Her work was often unseen, her interventions swift and decisive, leaving behind only the ripple effects of positive change. One such instance involved the fledgling community of Harmony Creek, a small collection of homesteads nestled in a fertile valley, a beacon of hope for families seeking a new life away from the lawless sprawl. Harmony Creek, however, was not immune to the predatory nature of the frontier. A ruthless land speculator, Silas the Serpent Blackwood, had set his sights on the valley. Blackwood, a man whose charm was as venomous as his intentions, used a combination of legal loopholes, intimidation, and outright violence to drive out homesteaders, intending to seize their lands for a railroad venture. He operated through a network of corrupt local officials and a gang of brutal enforcers, making him seem untouchable. Elara learned of Harmony Creek's plight through a network of informants she had cultivated over the years. Displaced families she had helped, former outlaws she had reformed, even a few disillusioned lawmen who recognized the limitations of their own authority. A grizzled prospector named Jedediah Old Man Thorne, whose family had been among the first to settle Harmony Creek, sought her out. He described Blackwood's insidious tactics, the mounting despair among the settlers, and the fear that had begun to choke the life out of their nascent community. "He ain't just taking land, ma'am," Jedediah rasped, his eyes filled with a weariness that went beyond his years. "He's taking hope, breaking spirits, and there ain't a soul strong enough to stand against him." Elara listened, her gaze steady, her mind already sifting through the complexities of the situation. This wasn't a simple matter of shooting a villain. Blackwood operated within the gray areas of the law, making him a more elusive and dangerous foe. Her past experiences, however, had taught her that true justice often required navigating these treacherous waters, using intellect as much as firepower. Her first move was to infiltrate Harmony Creek, not as the feared Black Widow, but as a quiet, unassuming seamstress named Elara Vance. She moved into a small rented cabin on the outskirts of the settlement, observing, listening, and weaving herself into the fabric of the community. She saw the fear in the eyes of the women, the quiet desperation of the men, and the bewildered innocence of the children. She witnessed Blackwood's enforcers, led by a hulking brute named Grizzly Thorn, no relation to Jedediah, though their shared surname was a cruel irony. Riding through town, their presence a constant reminder of their power. Elara spent weeks gathering intelligence. She learned of Blackwood's financial vulnerabilities, his reliance on a specific stagecoach route for his illicit dealings, and the network of bribes that kept his corrupt officials in line. She also discovered a hidden clause in the original land deeds that, if properly invoked, could invalidate Blackwood's claims. The problem was, the only copy of these original deeds was locked away in a heavily guarded courthouse vault in the nearest major town, Prosperity Junction. Her plan began to take shape, a multi-pronged assault on Blackwood's operations, designed to dismantle his power structure piece by piece. She started with his enforcers. Instead of direct confrontation, which would only create more fear and potentially rally Blackwood's forces, she opted for a campaign of psychological warfare. Using her knowledge of the terrain and her unparalleled stealth, she began to subtly sabotage their operations. One night, she tampered with the saddles of Grizzly's gang, loosening cinch straps and filling their water canteens with a harmless but intensely bitter concoction. The next day, during a routine patrol, several riders were unseated, leading to minor injuries and a significant loss of face. Another time, she skillfully diverted a herd of cattle meant for Blackwood's personal consumption onto the path of a rival rancher, sparking a petty but time-consuming feud. These small, seemingly random incidents fostered an atmosphere of unease and incompetence within Grizzly's gang, eroding their confidence and making them question their leader's judgment. While sowing discord among Blackwood's men, Elara also began to subtly empower the settlers of Harmony Creek. She didn't arm them or incite rebellion. Instead, she shared knowledge. She taught the women how to mend fences and tend to their gardens more efficiently, subtly instilling a sense of self-reliance. She encouraged the men to form a community watch, not to confront Blackwood's men, but to keep an eye on their property and report any suspicious activity to a designated, trustworthy elder. She organized communal gatherings, ostensibly for quilting bees or barn raisings, but in reality, these were opportunities for the settlers to connect, share their fears, and realize they were not alone. She nurtured their collective spirit, reminding them of the strength in unity. The true challenge lay in retrieving the land deeds from Prosperity Junction. This required a level of infiltration Elara hadn't attempted in years. The courthouse was a formidable stone building guarded day and night. She spent days observing the routines of the guards, studying the building's layout, and mentally mapping out escape routes. She discovered a single, seldom-used window on the second floor, overlooking a narrow alley that offered a potential entry point. Under the cloak of a moonless night, Elara executed her plan with surgical precision. Dressed in dark clothing, her face obscured by a bandana, she scaled the rough stone wall of the courthouse, her movements silent as a whisper. The window, as she had anticipated, was old and poorly secured. A few carefully placed tools and a practiced hand were all it took to pry it open. Inside, the courthouse was a labyrinth of dusty offices and echoing hallways. Elara navigated it with the instinct of a hunter, her senses heightened. She located the vault, a massive iron behemoth, its combination lock a formidable challenge. This wasn't a job for brute force. It required a delicate touch, a keen ear, and an understanding of mechanical intricacies. Drawing on skills she had honed in her younger days before vengeance consumed her, she painstakingly worked the tumblers, the faint clicks in the silent night her only guide. After what felt like an eternity, the heavy door groaned open. Inside, among stacks of ledgers and legal documents, she found the original Harmony Creek land deeds, carefully preserved in a leather-bound folio. As she retrieved them, a faint rustle from the hallway startled her. She froze, her hand instinctively going to the small, concealed derringer she always carried. A lone night watchman, his lantern casting dancing shadows, was making his rounds. Elara pressed herself against the wall, her dark clothing blending seamlessly with the shadows. The watchman passed, oblivious, his footsteps fading into the distance. Elara exhaled, a silent breath of relief, and slipped out of the courthouse, the precious documents secured. Back in Harmony Creek, the revelation of the original deed sent a ripple of hope through the community. Elara, still known as Eleanor, carefully orchestrated the timing of their discovery. She ensured that Jedediah Thorne, as the most respected elder, would be the one to find them, giving the community a renewed sense of agency. The deeds, when presented to the local magistrate, who, thanks to Elara's prior subtle interventions, was now less inclined to blindly follow Blackwood's directives, proved Blackwood's claims to be fraudulent. The legal battle that ensued was fierce, but Blackwood's carefully constructed empire began to crumble. His bribed officials, fearing exposure, began to distance themselves. His gang, demoralized and increasingly wary of their leader's apparent bad luck, started to desert him. Blackwood, cornered and desperate, made a final reckless move. He attempted to burn down the Harmony Creek homesteads, hoping to destroy the evidence and drive out the remaining settlers through terror. But Elara was ready. She had anticipated his desperation. Working with the newly organized Community Watch, she had established a system of alerts and defenses. When Blackwood and his remaining thugs rode in, torches blazing, they were met not with cowering fear, but with an organized and determined resistance. The settlers, armed with buckets of water, shovels, and a newfound courage, fought back. Elara, moving like a phantom in the night, disarmed Blackwood's men, her movements swift and precise. She didn't kill, but she rendered them incapacitated, their weapons scattered, their will broken. Blackwood himself, enraged and cornered, came face to face with Elara. He didn't recognize her as the quiet seamstress. He saw only a figure of formidable skill, a shadow of justice. He lunged at her, a bowie knife glinting in the firelight. Elara, with a practiced move, disarmed him, the knife clattering to the ground. She didn't deliver a final blow. Instead, she bound him, leaving him for the authorities, a defeated and humiliated man. The aftermath saw Harmony Creek flourish. Blackwood was tried and imprisoned, his ill-gotten gains confiscated and used to rebuild the community. The settlers, having faced down adversity together, emerged stronger and more united. Elara, her mission complete, quietly departed Harmony Creek, leaving behind only the legend of a mysterious guardian angel who had appeared in their darkest hour. Her work, however, was far from over. The frontier was vast, and injustice, like a persistent weed, always found new ground to take root. Elara's reputation, though never openly acknowledged, spread through whispered tales and grateful hearts. She became a silent force for good, her interventions often attributed to divine providence or improbable luck. One such tale involved the plight of the lost children of the Serpent River. A series of devastating floods had swept through a remote mining community, leaving dozens of children orphaned and displaced. They were being exploited by unscrupulous traders, forced into labor, or left to fend for themselves in the harsh wilderness. The local authorities, overwhelmed and corrupt, turned a blind eye. Elara, hearing of their plight, embarked on a perilous journey through treacherous terrain, navigating swollen rivers and desolate canyons. She tracked the children, not with a gun, but with an unwavering determination and a deep well of empathy. She found them scattered, starving, and terrified, their innocence stripped away by hardship. Her approach was nuanced. She couldn't simply rescue them and leave them to their fate. They needed a home, a future. She spent weeks meticulously planning, gathering resources, and building a network of support. She convinced a benevolent Quaker settlement, known for its compassion and self-sufficiency, to take in the children. But first, she had to liberate them from their various captors. This involved a series of daring, non-lethal operations. She would infiltrate the makeshift camps where the children were held, using her stealth and strategic mind to create diversions, disable guards, and lead the children to safety, often under the cover of darkness. She became a beacon of hope for these lost souls, her quiet strength and gentle demeanor reassuring them in their terror. She taught them basic survival skills, how to find clean water, how to identify edible plants, and how to stay hidden. She became a temporary mother figure, her presence a comforting anchor in their chaotic world. The journey to the Quaker settlement was long and arduous. Elara guided the children through treacherous mountain passes and across vast, unforgiving plains. She protected them from bandits, wild animals, and the elements, her vigilance unwavering. She taught them songs to keep their spirits up, told them stories of a better future, and showed them the resilience of the human spirit. Upon their arrival at the Quaker settlement, the children, though weary, carried a spark of hope. The Quakers, known for their unwavering commitment to peace and community, welcomed them with open arms. Elara stayed for a time, ensuring the children were settled, helping them adjust to their new lives, and providing guidance to the Quaker elders on how best to address the children's trauma and needs. She taught them about the specific dangers of the frontier, providing practical advice on security and self-sufficiency. As she prepared to depart, a young girl, no older than 7, tugged at her skirts. "Will you come back?" she whispered, her eyes wide with a fragile hope. Elara knelt, her gaze soft. "I will always be watching," she murmured, a promise carried on the wind. "And remember, true strength comes from within, from your kindness and your courage." Her legacy, therefore, was not merely etched in the annals of vengeance, but woven into the fabric of the communities she protected. She was the architect of silent revolutions, the unseen hand that steered justice, the quiet guardian who bridged the chasm between chaos and order. Her story became a whispered legend, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the unexpected paths to redemption. It proved that the most profound impact wasn't always made with a gun, but with a heart capable of both fierce retribution and boundless empathy, a heart that chose to build a better world from the ashes of its own past. Elara Vance, the Black Widow, became more than a legend. She became a symbol that even in the lawless expanse of the Old West, where the line between right and wrong often blurred, there existed a force for good that operated outside the confines of conventional law. Her journey from avenging angel to silent guardian was a masterclass in transformation, a testament to the idea that the human spirit, even after profound loss, can not only survive but thrive, becoming a beacon of hope for others. Her quiet acts of heroism, her unwavering commitment to justice, and her profound understanding of the human condition ensured that her legacy would endure, not in monuments or ballads, but in the peaceful lives of those she touched, the communities she nurtured, and the unexpected hope she brought to a world desperately in need of it. Her story is a reminder that the Wild West, often romanticized for its violence and rugged individualism, also harbored stories of profound human connection, of selflessness, and of the enduring power of compassion. Elara Vance, the woman who once sought only to destroy, ultimately found her true purpose in building, protecting, and healing. Her journey is a testament to the idea that redemption is not a destination, but a continuous journey, a persistent choice to choose light over darkness, hope over despair, and compassion over vengeance. And in doing so, she became the truest embodiment of the West's enduring spirit, rugged, resilient, and ultimately hopeful. Her journey also highlighted a crucial, often overlooked aspect of frontier life, the silent strength of women. In a world dominated by men and brute force, Elara demonstrated that intelligence, empathy, and strategic thinking could be far more potent weapons. She challenged the prevailing notions of power, proving that true authority stemmed not from a badge or a gun, but from moral conviction and an unwavering commitment to justice. She was a pioneer in her own right, carving a path for a different kind of heroism, one defined by quiet strength and profound impact. The tales of her interventions, though often shrouded in mystery, served as an inspiration to countless individuals who felt powerless in the face of injustice. She taught them that even the smallest act of defiance, when fueled by conviction, could ignite a revolution. In the end, Elara Vance never sought to be a hero in the traditional sense. She merely sought to mend a broken world, one quiet act of compassion at a time. Her legacy, therefore, is not one of grand gestures, but of countless small triumphs, of lives quietly saved, of communities gently nurtured, and of a future built on the quiet, unwavering promise of hope. Her story, like the vast, untamed landscape of the West, is a tapestry woven with threads of tragedy and triumph, despair and hope, vengeance and ultimately profound, unexpected redemption. And it is a story that continues to resonate, reminding us that even in the darkest corners of human experience, the light of compassion can always find a way to shine. The wind whispers through the canyons, carrying echoes of her legend, a legend not of a fearsome avenger, but of a quiet guardian, a testament to the transformative power of a single, resolute heart. The frontier, forever changed by her presence, remembers Elara Vance, not for the lives she took, but for the lives she saved, the hope she ignited, and the enduring legacy of a woman who chose compassion over vengeance, and in doing so, found her own profound, unexpected redemption. Her story serves as a timeless reminder that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to build, to protect, and to heal. It's a narrative that transcends the dusty trails and gun smoke, reaching into the heart of what it means to be human, to suffer, to overcome, and ultimately to find a purpose far greater than oneself. And as the sun sets over the vast, untamed West, casting long shadows across the land, the legend of Elara Vance, the quiet guardian, continues to inspire, a beacon of hope in a world forever seeking its own redemption.